So tonight, we're going to step into the glittering world of the Victorian marriage market, specifically the famous London season. Now, you've probably imagined it as this whirlwind of romantic balls, handsome lords, and stolen glances behind a fan. A real-life fairy tale. But let's be honest, the reality was a terrifying and utterly exhausting marketplace where you weren't the customer. You were the product. Tonight, you are a young woman in her third and most desperate season. The pressure is on, and you're about to be forced into an impossible choice. A choice between two very different men and two very different futures. A life of perfect, respectable misery with a man who can give you everything you're supposed to want. Or a life of scandalous, impoverished freedom with a man who sees you for who you really are. Oh, and if you're enjoying these stories, I'd really appreciate a like or subscribe. I'm always super curious where you're all listening from, so drop a comment with your location and what time it is there. It just floors me every time I see how far these little sleepy stories travel. All right, find that cozy spot. Get yourself perfectly comfortable and let the day's worries just melt away. We're heading back to 1882. The stakes have never been higher, and every single choice you make will matter. You have just woken up in London, in May of 1882. For a moment, you allow yourself to just lie there, adrift in the hazy space between dream and reality. The mattress beneath you is stuffed firm with horsehair, and the linens are thin, crisp cotton. The air in your bedroom is cold, carrying the familiar London scent of damp stone and coal smoke, a smell that has a way of seeping through even the thickest glass. The gas lamps outside are being extinguished, their soft, hazy glow surrendering to the determined gray of a London morning. Then you remember, and with the memory comes a familiar dread, a cold, heavy knot that settles in the pit of your stomach. It is the first Tuesday of the season, your third season. You are Clara Ashworth, 21 years old, and in the unspoken but brutally clear language of the Victorian marriage market, you are beginning to spoil. 2 seasons you've endured, 2 years of being paraded through London's drawing rooms and ballrooms, of smiling until your face ached, of making polite, pointless conversation with a procession of eligible men who all seemed to blur into one another. 2 seasons, and not a single suitable proposal. Your stomach twists. You are, in the bluntest terms, a failure. And tonight, at the Abernathy's annual ball, you are expected to try again. Miss Clara, are you awake? The voice is soft, a familiar comfort in the chilly room. You turn your head on the cool pillow to see Agnes, your lady's maid, pulling back the heavy velvet curtains. Agnes has been with you since you were a girl. She knows the secrets your diary doesn't, understands the meaning behind a sigh you didn't even know you'd let out. Barely, you murmur. Agnes moves to the small fireplace, her movements efficient and quiet as she adds kindling to the embers. The first ball of the season is always the most trying, she says, her back to you. But you look well rested. The country air has put some color back in your cheeks. You both know it's a kind lie. You haven't felt truly rested in months. The pressure from your mother has been relentless. The journey from your family's modest country home back to this rented London townhouse felt less like a trip and more like a soldier being recalled to the front lines. "Time to get ready, miss," Agnes says, turning from the now crackling fire. Your mother wants to approve your gown before breakfast. And so it begins. The ritual, the performance. You swing your legs out of bed, your bare feet meeting the cold, polished floorboards. First comes the wash, a pathetic affair with a basin of lukewarm water that does little more than chase the sleep from your eyes. Then, the real ordeal. The corset. Agnes holds it up, a whalebone cage covered in white cotton, a torture device disguised as underclothing. "Arms up," she says gently, and you obey. The corset wraps around your torso, a slow, deliberate act of compression. As Agnes pulls the laces, you grip the back of a chair, your knuckles white. "A bit tighter, Miss Clara," she says, her voice apologetic. Your mother insisted. You exhale completely, allowing her to cinch the final inch. The effect is immediate and suffocating. Your lungs, now prisoners, can only take shallow, fluttering breaths. Your ribs ache with a familiar pressure. You are now perfectly, fashionably, miserably packaged. The layers that follow are a blur of fabric and weight. The drawers, the SH-me's, the multiple starched petticoats, and finally, the gown for the ball tonight. It is new, a confection of cream-colored silk and delicate lace that your family absolutely cannot afford. Your father is a respectable solicitor, but his income is modest. Maintaining a presence in London for the season, with its endless costs of rented houses, new gowns, and hired carriages, is stretching the family finances to their breaking point. You know this because you've seen the worry in his eyes and heard your parents' hushed, anxious arguments late at night. Mr. Albright at the bank was less than obliging. You heard your father say just last week. All of this, the expense, the effort, the hopes of your entire family rests on you, on your ability to finally secure a husband, a wealthy husband. There, Agnes says, stepping back to admire her work. You look a vision. You stare at your reflection. The woman in the mirror is pale, her waist impossibly small, her shoulders framed by delicate puffs of silk. Her expression is serene. She is beautiful. She is also a complete fabrication. You make your way downstairs to the morning room, where your mother is already examining a calling card on a silver tray. At 45, she is still a handsome woman, though her face is etched with a permanent look of anxious determination. She looks up as you enter, her eyes performing a swift, critical inspection. Clara, good. The cream silk was the right choice. It shows off your complexion. She pauses. You look pale. Excellent. Gentlemen find that most appealing. You can't help the small, ironic thought. I'm pale because the corset is slowly suffocating me. Your father and I were discussing matters last night. Your mother continues. getting straight to the point. This season is critical. Your sister, Amelia, will be making her debut next year, and we simply cannot afford to have two daughters on the market at once. The unspoken words hang in the air. You are a liability. Your time is running out. Mr. Finch will be at the Abernathy's ball tonight, she says, her voice taking on a tone of strategic excitement. Lord Finch's eldest son. He has recently returned from a tour of the continent and is said to be looking for a wife. His fortune is considerable. Lord Finch's son, a man you have never met. He sounds less like a potential husband and more like a strategic acquisition. I understand, Mother, you say, your voice perfectly neutral. You have been trained your entire life for this, to be agreeable, to be charming, to be a suitable match. You are not to have opinions or desires of your own. Your desire is to do your duty to your family. She smiles, a rare, genuine expression of relief. Good. We shall leave at 9. It would not do to appear too eager by arriving early, nor too fashionable by arriving late. The rest of the day is a slow-motion torture of anticipation. You practice the piano. You assist your mother with her correspondence. You take a brief, chaperoned walk in the dreary London drizzle. Every moment is a reminder of the performance to come. That night, as the carriage clatters through the gaslit streets of Mayfair, your heart pounds a nervous rhythm against your ribs. You are on your way to the Abernathy's ball, to the glittering, suffocating heart of the human stock market. Tonight, you will be judged, weighed, and measured. You clutch the small mother-of-pearl dance card in your gloved hand. Tonight, it must be filled. Tonight, you must catch the eye of a man like Alastair Finch. Tonight, you must perform the role of a lifetime. You look at your reflection in the dark glass of the carriage window. The woman staring back at you is a beautiful stranger, her expression perfectly composed. You are not a woman. You are an investment. And tonight, you must prove your worth. The Abernathy's townhouse is a fortress of light and sound in the gaslit dark of Belgravia. As you step from the carriage, the sound hits you first, a muffled orchestra, the high-pitched chatter of 100 conversations, and the deep, resonant hum of a house filled to bursting. It is the sound of the London season in full throat. You follow your mother up the grand staircase, your gloved hand barely touching the polished banister. You are one of a river of guests flowing into the ballroom, a sea of rustling silk, gleaming jewels, and the almost overpowering scent of expensive perfume mingling with beeswax from the polished floors and the smell of wilting flowers. Your smile feels painted on, a polite mask you've been taught to wear. Inside, the ballroom is a dizzying spectacle. Chandeliers drip with crystal, casting 1,000 dancing lights across the room. The orchestra, perched on a gilded balcony, is playing a waltz, still considered a rather daring and intimate dance. Couples spin across the floor, the men in stark black evening dress, the women in a rainbow of pastel gowns. It is beautiful. It is also a battlefield. Clara, dear, stand up straight. your mother murmurs, her fan tapping your shoulder lightly. Remember who you are. I know who I am, you want to say. I am a product on display. Almost immediately, your dance card begins to fill. Young men, prompted by their own mothers or the hostess, approach with practiced bows. May I have the honor of the second quadrille, Miss Ashworth? Might I trouble you for the mazurka? Each name penciled into the little booklet is a small victory, a mark of your social desirability. A full dance card means you are a success. An empty one is a public humiliation. You are halfway through a stilted conversation with a young baronet who can only speak about horses when your mother reappears. A look of triumph on her face. At her side is a man who can only be Mr. Alastair Finch. He is older than you expected, perhaps 35, with thinning sandy hair and pale, serious eyes. He is dressed impeccably, and his posture is so rigid he looks as though he might snap if he bends. He is the human embodiment of the word suitable. Mr. Finch, may I present my daughter, Clara, your mother says, her voice practically purring. He offers a stiff, correct bow. Miss Ashworth, it is a pleasure. His voice is as colorless as his complexion. You curtsy in return, murmuring a polite greeting. I have heard much of your accomplishments, he continues, his gaze assessing you with an unnerving lack of warmth. Your mother speaks highly of your skill with the pianoforte. My mother is too kind, you reply, reciting the well-rehearsed script of feminine modesty. He nods, as if you've passed a small test. Perhaps you will allow me the honor of the next waltz. Your heart sinks. A waltz. 10 minutes of spinning in close proximity to a man who looks at you as though you are a column of figures in his account book. I would be delighted, you lie. Dancing with Alastair Finch is like waltzing with a perfectly constructed automaton. His steps are flawless, his grip firm but impersonal, his expression unchanging. He leads you through the turns with an efficiency that is entirely devoid of joy. I find these events a necessary, if somewhat tedious, part of one's social duty, he remarks as you circle the floor. Would you not agree? You murmur your assent, your mind screaming with a desperate, silent boredom. You are trapped in his arms, in this conversation, in this life. You can already see your future stretching out before you. A succession of perfectly managed, soul-crushingly dull dinner parties presided over by this man. As the waltz ends, he bows again. Thank you, Miss Ashworth. You are an excellent dancer. He says it with the same enthusiasm he might use to comment on a well-made carriage wheel. You retreat to the side of the ballroom, fanning your face and desperate for a moment of peace. The room is growing hotter, the air thick and stifling. Your corset feels tighter than ever, a vice gripping your ribs. Mother, you say, approaching her where she stands with a group of other matrons. I feel a bit faint. I think I might require some air. This is a perfectly acceptable excuse. Fainting is practically a competitive sport for Victorian women. a sign of delicate sensibilities. Your mother nods, her expression a mixture of concern and approval. Of course, my dear. The conservatory is just through that door. Agnes can accompany you, but you manage to slip away before she can summon your maid. The conservatory is a welcome refuge. Cooler than the ballroom, it's a jungle of potted ferns and exotic flowers, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and orchids. You find a small, hidden bench behind a massive palm and sink onto it, finally alone. You close your eyes, taking the deepest breath you can manage, and let the mask drop. Hiding from the lions are you. The voice, rich with a warmth and humor you haven't heard all night, makes you jump. A man is standing a few feet away, partially hidden by the foliage. He's not in strict evening dress. His tie is slightly loosened, and he holds a sketchbook in one hand. He looks younger than Mr. Finch, with unruly dark hair and eyes that are crinkled at the corners, as if he smiles often. "I beg your pardon," you stammer, caught off guard. "The lions," he repeats, gesturing vaguely back toward the ballroom. "The matchmaking mothers and the hunting sons. It's a dangerous wilderness out there." A laugh escapes you before you can stop it. A real laugh, not the polite, tinkling sound you are supposed to produce. "I suppose it is," you admit. "I'm Julian Croft," he says, offering a slight, informal bow. "And I am most certainly an unsuitable match, so you needn't worry. I'm only here because my uncle insisted." His frankness is so shocking, so utterly at odds with the carefully constructed conversations of the ballroom, that you find yourself smiling. "Clara Ashworth, and I am, supposedly, on the market." "Ah, a prized filly at the auction," he says, but his tone is sympathetic, not mocking. He looks at you, really looks at you, and you have the strange feeling that he sees not the polished Miss Ashworth in her expensive gown, but the tired, frustrated woman underneath. "It must be exhausting," he says quietly. "It is," you confess, the simple honesty of the admission, a profound relief. He opens his sketchbook. "I come here to draw. It is the only way I can survive these events, by observing instead of participating." He shows you a page, a quick, clever caricature of the baronet, who spoke only of horses. It's so accurate you have to stifle another laugh. "You're an artist," you ask. "A writer, mostly," he says. "But I find that people's faces often tell a better story than their words, especially here. For the next 10 minutes, hidden behind the palm, you have the first real conversation of the evening. You talk about books, about art, about the suffocating nature of London society. He listens, he argues. He makes you laugh. He treats you not as a potential wife, but as an intellectual equal. It is exhilarating. The sound of your mother's voice cuts through the air. "Clara, Clara, are you in here?" Panic seizes you. You stand up quickly. "I must go." Mr. Croft nods, his warm smile tinged with regret. "Of course. The lions are calling." He hesitates, then says, "It was a genuine pleasure to meet you, Miss Ashworth." You return to the ballroom. your heart pounding for an entirely different reason than it was an hour ago. You find your mother, who eyes you suspiciously. Where have you been? And who was that man? No one, mother. Just a gentleman who was also seeking some air. You spend the rest of the evening in a daze, mechanically fulfilling your dance card, your mind 1,000,000 miles away. You have met 2 men tonight. One offered you a future of immense wealth, impeccable social standing, and suffocating propriety. The other offered you nothing but a real conversation and a glimpse of a world where you might be seen as more than just a prize to be won. As you perform a quadrille with yet another bland, eligible bachelor, you know, with a terrifying certainty, that your 3rd season has just become infinitely more complicated. The morning after the Abernathy's ball, a footman delivers a small, crisp envelope to your door. Your mother intercepts it before you can, breaking the wax seal with an air of triumphant urgency. "It's from Mr. Finch," she announces, her voice vibrating with satisfaction as she scans the note. "He requests permission to call on you this afternoon at 3 o'clock. And just like that, the next move in this elaborate chess game is set. A formal call is a significant step. It is a gentleman's way of signaling serious, respectable interest, a world away from a spontaneous conversation in a conservatory. It is a public declaration, observed not just by the family, but by the servants who will gossip, and by any neighbors who happen to be peering out their windows. The household is immediately thrown into a state of high alert. This is not just a visit, it is an inspection. The drawing room must be immaculate. The best tea set must be brought out. You must be prepared, polished, and perfectly passive. Clara, you will wear the gray morning dress with the velvet trim your mother directs. It is modest, but elegant. And for heaven's sake, do not mention that dreadful new novel you were reading. Stick to safe topics. The royal family, the weather. You spend the hours before his arrival in a state of quiet dread. You are not nervous about the man himself. Alistair Finch is as predictable as a clock. You are nervous about the performance. You feel like an actress preparing for a difficult role, one that requires you to be charming, but not too charming, intelligent, but not too intelligent, interested, but not too interested. At precisely 3 o'clock, the doorbell chimes. The parlor maid, her apron starched to within an inch of its life, shows him in. Mr. Finch enters the drawing room, bowing stiffly to your mother, then to you. He is, as always, impeccably dressed. Not a single hair is out of place. He looks less like a man and more like a statue that has been temporarily granted the power of movement. "Mrs. Ashworth, Miss Ashworth," he says, "thank you for receiving me. The pleasure is all ours, Mr. Finch," your mother replies, gesturing for him to take a seat. The chair she indicates is strategically placed. It is directly opposite you, but a formidable mahogany table stands between you like a barricade. Your mother positions herself in a chair slightly to the side, close enough to act as chaperone, but but far enough to create the illusion that you and Mr. Finch are having a private conversation. The tea is served. The ritual is agonizingly slow. You pour, your hands steady despite the tremor you feel inside. You offer him milk and sugar, your eyes modestly downcast. Every movement is a test. Is your posture correct? Are you handling the delicate china with appropriate grace? The conversation begins, as it always does, with the weather. The park was quite pleasant for a stroll this morning, he offers. Indeed, you reply. The air felt quite restorative after yesterday's rain. It is excruciating. You are two adults, supposedly assessing each other for a lifetime partnership, and you are discussing cloud formations. After the weather has been exhausted, he moves on to his next pre-approved topic, his family. My mother sends her regards, he says. She was most impressed with your comportment at the Abernathy's ball. That is very kind of her, you murmur, feeling like a prized pet that has behaved well in public. She is most particular about a woman's duties, he continues, his pale eyes fixed on you. She believes a well-managed household is the cornerstone of a man's success. She feels a wife's primary role is to create a serene and orderly environment, a haven from the pressures of the business world. This is not a casual observation. This is a job interview. He is laying out the terms of your potential employment. Your duties will include being serene, being orderly, and acting as a human stress ball for his commercial anxieties. You remember your conversation with Julian Croft, the discussion of art and ideas, the shared laughter. It feels like a memory from a different lifetime. You look at Ullasta Finch, at his serious, unsmiling face, and you try to imagine a lifetime of serenity and order with him. The image is bleak. I believe a woman's influence in the home is indeed paramount, you say, the perfectly proper words tasting like ash in your mouth. He nods, satisfied. Excellent. I am glad we are in agreement. He pauses, and for a moment, you fear he is about to say something truly personal. Instead, he says, my new property in Belgravia is nearing completion. The decorators have been chosen, but of course, the final touches, the curtains, the arrangement of the objets dut, will require a lady's discerning eye. He is talking about your future home. A home you have never seen, in which you will be expected to arrange objects. You are not a partner in his life. You are a high-end interior decorator who comes with a dowry. The visit lasts exactly 30 minutes, the prescribed duration for a formal afternoon call. It is a relief when he finally stands to leave. He bows to you both, his expression as unreadable as it was when he arrived. I hope I may have the pleasure of calling on you again soon, he says. It is a statement, not a question. We would be delighted, your mother replies, already mentally planning your wedding. After he is gone, your mother is ecstatic. Clara, he is perfect, so respectable, so sensible. And did you hear him speak of his new house? He is already picturing you as its mistress. You say nothing, just smile and nod. But as you return to your room, the silence of your gilded cage feels more suffocating than ever. Agnes helps you out of the gray dress, her hands gentle as she unlaces the corset. "Well," she asks, her voice quiet, "was it as dreadful as you feared?" "It was worse, Agnes," you whisper. "It wasn't dreadful at all. It was nothing. There was no man in that room, only a list of expectations." Agnes is silent for a moment. Then she says, "Some women would call that a successful visit, miss. And that is the most terrifying part. In this world, a connection is not required. A shared soul is not on the checklist. A life of quiet, respectable emptiness with a man like Ullasta Finch is not a tragedy. It is the prize. You have seen the safe bet, and it looks like a life sentence. 2 days later, you find yourself escaping the house under the guise of a perfectly respectable outing. Your mother has dispatched you to the National Gallery with your Aunt Beatrice, a sweet, aging spinster whose primary passions are watercolor painting. And discreetly nibbling on candied ginger she keeps in a small tin. As chaperones go, she is a welcome improvement over your mother. Her attention is more likely to be on a Turner landscape than on your every move. The gallery is a refuge. The cool, quiet halls are a world away from the stuffy drawing rooms of Mayfair. You stand before a grand history painting, all dramatic lighting and suffering saints, and for the first time in days, your mind is quiet. You are not Miss Ushworth, the eligible bachelorette. You are just Clara, a young woman looking at a painting. An interesting choice, a familiar voice says from beside you. So much theatrical agony. Do you suppose he's upset about being martyred, or that the painter gave him a rather unfortunate haircut? You turn, and your heart gives a small, traitorous leap. It's Julian Croft. He is dressed not in the stiff formality of a London gentleman, but in a tweed jacket that has seen better days, and his dark hair is, as before, gloriously unruly. He offers you a warm, conspiratorial smile. "Mr. Croft," you say, a blush rising to your cheeks. "What a surprise to see you here." You glance around for your aunt. She is, thankfully, captivated by a small Dutch still life a few feet away, probably admiring the way the artist painted a lemon peel. "Is it?" he asks, his eyes twinkling. "I was told a certain Miss Ushworth, with a fondness for art and a distaste for tedious social gatherings, might be seeking sanctuary here today. An anonymous tip, of course. He's teasing you, but there's a truth to it that makes you bold. And is that why you are here? To seek sanctuary, or to sketch more caricatures of the unsuspecting?" "A bit of both," he admits, tapping his sketchbook. He lowers his voice slightly. "But mostly, I hoped I might see you again, in a place where we might have a real conversation. This is shockingly forward, improper even, but instead of feeling scandalized, you feel a thrill of excitement. A real conversation. The prospect is as tempting as forbidden fruit. Aunt Beatrice is quite absorbed in the Dutch masters," you say, a silent permission. You begin to walk, side by side, down the long gallery. It's a completely different experience from your chaperone's strolls. There is no rigid arm to hold, no prescribed distance to maintain. You are two people, moving through a shared space, talking. "Tell me," he says, his gaze on a brooding landscape. "What do you truly think of this? Not the polite drawing room opinion, but your own." The question is a gift. No one has asked for your true opinion on anything in years. You find yourself speaking with an honesty that surprises you. You talk about the way the artist used light and shadow, the emotions the painting evokes, the story it tells. He listens, not politely, not with the patient air of a man waiting for his turn to speak, but with genuine, engaged interest. He challenges your ideas, offers his own, and suddenly you are not just talking about art. You are talking about life, about beauty, about the gap between how things appear and how they truly are. That's what I find so stifling about our world, he says, as you pause before a portrait of a stern-faced aristocrat. Everyone is a portrait, a carefully composed image of what they're supposed to be. No one dares to show the messy, unfinished sketch underneath. He looks at you then, and his gaze is so direct, so insightful. It feels as though he can see straight through the polished veneer of Miss Clara Ushworth to the restless, curious woman trapped within. "But I don't think you are just a portrait," he says softly. "I think you have a great deal of messy, interesting sketches hidden away." His words land in your chest with a warmth that has nothing to do with the stuffy gallery air. He sees you. He actually sees you. You spend the next hour in a haze of exhilarating conversation. You forget you are in a public place, that you are supposed to be the model of Victorian propriety. You are just Clara, talking with Julian. He tells you about his writing, the articles he publishes under a pseudonym that critique society, the poetry he writes that no one will publish. He speaks of a world of ideas, of art, of social change, a world so much larger and more vibrant than the small, gilded cage you inhabit. Don't you ever wish you could simply escape? He asks, as you make your way toward the gallery exit, where your aunt is no doubt beginning to wonder where you've gone. Every single day, you confess, the truth of it raw and undeniable. "Perhaps we can, in small ways," he says, his eyes holding yours. Through books, through art, through conversations like this one, the moment is charged, electric. It is more intimate than any waltz, more meaningful than any carefully chosen bouquet of flowers. "Clara, there you are." Your aunt's voice, fluttering with mild anxiety, breaks the spell. "I was beginning to worry. Oh, Mr. Croft, how lovely to see you again." The masks snap back into place. You are once again Miss Ushworth and Mr. Croft, two acquaintances exchanging polite greetings under the watchful eye of a chaperone. He offers a proper bow to your aunt, another to you. "It was a pleasure to see you both," he says, his expression perfectly composed. But as he turns to leave, his eyes meet yours one last time, and in them you see a silent promise. This is not the end. It is a beginning. As you and your aunt travel home in the carriage, she chatters on about the paintings she admired. But you are silent, your mind replaying every word of your conversation with Julian. You have had a taste of a different kind of life, a different kind of connection. The thought of Alistair Finch and his perfectly ordered, emotionally sterile world now seems more unbearable than ever. You have breathed fresh air, and you know, with a terrifying certainty, that you can no longer be content in your beautiful, suffocating cage. The safe bet has become a prison, and Julian Croft, the unsuitable man, has just handed you the key. The brief, intoxicating freedom you felt at the gallery evaporates the moment you return home. Your mother is waiting in the drawing room, and her expression is a thundercloud. A letter has arrived from Lady Danbury, she says, holding up the offending piece of paper as if it were a dead mouse. She writes that Alistair Finch was seen paying particular attention to Evelyn Reed at the opera last night. Evelyn Reed. She says the name as if it is a curse, and in a way, it is. Evelyn Reed is everything you are, but newer. She is 18 in the first bloom of her debut season, and her father's fortune, newly made in railways, is rumored to be even more considerable than Mr. Finch's own. She is your rival, and she is a serious threat. He is a man of sense, Clara, your mother continues, her voice sharp with anxiety. He will not wait forever. You must secure his interest, and quickly. An eligible man of his standing has a dozen options. You have one. The pressure, which had briefly lifted, crashes back down on you with suffocating force. You are a commodity, and a newer, shinier model has just entered the marketplace. Your mother immediately doubles down on her campaign. Your social calendar, already full, becomes a strategic and relentless assault on Mr. Finch's time. An invitation to a private concert, a trip to see the new exhibition of watercolors, another formal family dinner. Every event is an opportunity for you to be seen with him, to be charming, to be the perfect, suitable wife-in-waiting. It is exhausting. The performances become more and more draining. You sit beside Mr. Finch at dinner, smiling at his dull pronouncements on politics and finance, while your mind screams with boredom. You walk with him in the park, your mother a hawk-like shadow a few feet away, and listen to him detail the renovations on his Belgravia house, your future prison. And the worst part is, it seems to be working. His calls become more frequent. He sends you flowers, perfect, scentless hothouse roses that look like they've been sculpted from wax. He gives no sign of being interested in the sparkling Miss Reed. You are, it appears, winning this silent, vicious competition. But it feels like a hollow victory. Then the other shoe drops. It happens during a Tuesday afternoon at home. One of those dreadful gatherings where women exchange gossip under the guise of social obligation. You are pouring tea when Mrs. Ulbrut, the solicitor's wife, leans inconspiratorially, "My dear Clara," she says, her voice a low, gleeful whisper, "I must warn you. There are some rather unpleasant rumors circulating about that Mr. Croft, the writer. A cold knot forms in your stomach. Rumors, you ask, trying to keep your voice steady. They say he keeps company with the most scandalous sorts," she continues, her eyes alight with the thrill of it. "Bohemian artists who live in squalor. Socialists who wish to overthrow the Queen. I even heard he was seen dining with an actress. An actress. In Victorian society, this is the equivalent of being seen consorting with criminals. Actresses were considered little better than prostitutes, women of loose morals and questionable character. To be associated with one could destroy a man's reputation. Furthermore," Mrs. Ulbrett adds, warming to her subject, "it is said he is deeply in debt. A gambler, apparently. Lost a considerable sum at cards last month. You feel a wave of dizziness, and for a moment you are grateful for the corset holding you upright. It cannot be true. The man you spoke with at the gallery, the intelligent, insightful man who saw you so clearly a gambler, a friend to scandalous women, that evening when you mention the rumor to your mother, her reaction is swift and absolute. I knew he was unsuitable, she declares, her face a mask of fury. A second son with no prospects and radical ideas. It is a dangerous combination. Clara, you are forbidden from ever speaking with him again. If Mr. Finch were to hear that you have been associating with such a person, it would ruin everything." Her words are a death sentence to the small, fragile hope that had begun to grow in your heart. You want to defend him, to protest that these are just rumors, but you know it is useless. In your world, the rumor is as damaging as the truth. An accusation is as good as a conviction. Do you understand me, Clara? Your mother demands. "Yes, mother," you whisper, your voice hollow. Over the next few days, you go through the motions of your life in a daze. You attend tea parties with a fixed smile. You listen to Mr. Finch's plans for his future, your future, with polite nods. But inside, you feel a war raging. Your mind tells you that your mother is right. Julian Croft is a dangerous distraction, a foolish romantic fantasy. Alastair Finch is your future, your security, the only sensible choice. But your heart, a foolish, rebellious organ, aches for the man who made you laugh in the conservatory, the man who saw the messy sketches underneath the perfect portrait. You are trapped. To pursue any connection with Julian would be to risk social suicide. To accept a future with Alastair feels like a different kind of death, a slow, quiet suffocation of the soul. One afternoon, desperate for solitude, you make an excuse to visit a small, respectable lending library on a quiet side street. As you browse the shelves, your fingers trailing over the leather-bound spines, you see it. A copy of the book of poetry you had discussed with Julian. Your heart quickens. On a wild, reckless impulse, you take it down. Tucked inside is a small, folded note. His handwriting is a bold, energetic scrawl. They are telling lies about me. I must see you. Hyde Park, near the Serpentine, tomorrow at 3. If you believe me, come. If not, I will understand. JC. You quickly hide the note in your glove, your hands trembling. It is an impossible, scandalous request. A secret meeting. Unchaperoned. The very idea could ruin you. But as you stand there in the silent library, surrounded by the stories of 1,000 lives, you know you have to go. You have to know the truth. The next day, Mr. Croft's note feels like a burning coal in your glove. You spend the morning in a fog of indecision, the paper a secret weight against your skin. Every rustle of your dress seems to whisper his words. If you believe me, come. To go is to risk everything, your reputation, your engagement prospects, your family's honor. To not go is to surrender to the rumors, to accept the world's judgment without question, and to let this one spark of genuine connection die. You make your choice. That afternoon, you plead a slight headache, a universally accepted ailment that requires quiet and fresh air. Your mother, preoccupied with seating arrangements for yet another upcoming dinner, allows you to go for a short walk with your Aunt Beatrice. She trusts her sister's gentle and slightly forgetful nature to provide adequate chaperonage. It's a trust you are about to betray. In Hyde Park, you put your desperate plan into action. Aunt Beatrice, ever sympathetic to a young woman's delicate nerves, suggests you sit on a bench near the flower gardens while she goes to inspect a particularly fine bed of tulips she has heard about. You rest here, my dear, she says kindly. I shall not be long. The moment she is out of sight, you are on your feet. Your heart is a frantic bird against your ribs. Every passing carriage, every glance from a stranger, feels like an accusation. You are a respectable young lady, and you are walking alone, unchaperoned, towards a clandestine meeting. If you are seen, you are ruined. It is that simple. You make your way towards the Serpentine, the park's winding lake, choosing a less fashionable path that is thankfully less crowded. The air is cool and smells of damp earth and horses. You see him before he sees you. He is leaning against a large oak tree, staring out at the water, his sketchbook lying forgotten at his feet. And the relief that washes over you is so profound, it almost makes your knees buckle. He looks up as you approach, and his face breaks into a smile that is both joyful and deeply worried. You came, he says, his voice a low murmur. I had to know the truth, you reply, stopping a few respectable feet away from him. Then I will give it to you, he says, his expression turning serious. He does not deny everything. That, you realize, is what makes you trust him. He admits he keeps company with artists and thinkers your mother would find shocking. They are my friends, Clara, he says, using your given name for the first time. The sound of it on his lips is both scandalous and beautiful. They are people who believe the world can be better, that art can be honest, that women should be educated. Are these such terrible ideas? And the actress, you ask, the word feeling like poison in your mouth. he sighs. She is a friend, a talented woman trying to make a living in a world that scorns her. I was helping her with a new play she has written. That is all. You believe him. And then he faces the most damaging rumor of all. As for the debt, he says, his gaze dropping to the ground for a moment. That, I am afraid, is true. I am not a wealthy man. I write for newspapers and journals, and the pay is precarious. My family's fortune belongs to my older brother. I possess little more than my name and my convictions. The words land with a quiet, devastating finality. The dream of a different life, a life with him, is now shadowed by the grim reality of poverty. I wanted you to know, he continues, looking at you again, his eyes full of a fierce, desperate honesty. I could not bear for you to think me a scoundrel or a liar. Whatever choice you make in this world, you deserve to make it with the truth in hand. No one else will give it to you. No one else has. Not your mother with her strategic maneuvering. Not your father with his financial calculations. Not even Mr. Finch with his list of respectable qualities. Julian is the only person who has treated you like you have a mind of your own, a heart that matters. He takes a step closer. Alistair Finch can offer you a life of comfort and security. He can give you a grand house and jewels and a place at the very top of society. I can offer you none of that. I can offer you art and arguments about poetry and a life of constant struggle. It is not a fair choice. No, you whisper, the word catching in your throat. It is. He reaches out then and takes your gloved hand in his. The touch is electrifying, a shock of warmth and reality through the thin layer of kid leather. This is forbidden. This is scandalous. And in this moment, it feels more real than anything in your life. I must go, you say, gently pulling your hand away. The loss of contact, a sudden, sharp ache. My aunt will be looking for me. Of course, he says, stepping back, the mask of propriety settling back over his features, though his eyes remain fixed on yours. Thank you for believing me, Clara. You walk away without looking back, your heart a battlefield of warring emotions. You have your answer. Julian Croft is not a villain. He is an honorable, intelligent, and captivating man who is also completely, hopelessly unsuitable. The choice is no longer between a good man and a bad one. It is between two different worlds, one of security and silence, the other of poverty and passion. You find your aunt exactly where you left her, still admiring the tulips. Oh, there you are, dear, she says cheerfully. Did you have a pleasant rest? Yes, aunt, you lie, your voice sounding strangely calm. It was most restorative. The invitation arrives a few days after your secret meeting in the park. It is thick, creamy cardstock, engraved with the Finch family crest. You and your parents are formally invited to dine at the home of Mr. Alistair Finch and his mother, the Dowager Lady Finch. This is it, your mother breathes, her hand trembling slightly as she holds the card. This is the final inspection. If his mother approves of you, Clara, a proposal is all but certain. Your heart, once a battlefield, now feels like a cold, empty hall. The memory of Julian Croft's desperate honesty is a constant, quiet ache. But you know your duty. The path has been chosen for you, not by your heart, but by the relentless logic of your world. The night of the dinner, you are dressed with the precision of a soldier preparing for a royal review. Your gown is of a muted silver silk, elegant and understated, chosen to project wealth without appearing ostentatious. Agnes pins a string of your mother's pearls into your hair, her fingers unusually gentle. "He is a respectable man, Miss Clara," she murmurs, as if sensing the turmoil inside you. That is worth a great deal. Is it, you wonder? Is it worth everything else? The Finch townhouse is an imposing fortress of dark stone on one of London's most fashionable squares. As you step from the carriage, the silence of the street is broken only by the clatter of your own footsteps. It feels less like arriving at a home and more like presenting yourself at a mausoleum. A butler, his face as devoid of emotion as a marble statue, opens the door and leads you into a cavernous, dimly lit hall. The air is cold and smells of beeswax and old paper. There are no flowers, no signs of life, only dark, imposing portraits of stern-faced ancestors staring down from the walls, their painted eyes following your every move. You are shown into a drawing room that is a monument to oppressive propriety. The furniture is dark, heavy mahogany, upholstered in a somber brocade. Every object is perfectly placed. There is no clutter, no warmth, no sign that real, messy people actually live here. It is a room for display, not for living. Lady Finch rises to greet you. She is a tall, thin woman, her back ramrod straight, her silver hair coiled into an impossibly tight bun. She is dressed in black silk, and the jet beads at her throat seem to absorb all the light in the room. Her smile is a brief, bloodless slash of her lips. "Mrs. Ashworth. Miss Ashworth," she says, her voice as crisp and cold as a winter morning. "How kind of you to join us." She gives you a swift, dismissive glance that takes in every detail of your appearance and finds it. You are certain, wanting. Alistair stands beside her, his expression as stiff and formal as ever. "Miss Ashworth," he bows, "I am pleased you could come. Dinner is announced." The dining room is even more imposing than the drawing room. A long, dark table is set with a terrifying array of silver cutlery and crystal glasses. You are seated, as protocol dictates, next to Alistair, with his mother at the head of the table, presiding over the meal like a silent, judgmental queen. The conversation is a masterpiece of strained, formal nothingness. Lady Finch quizzes you about your family's lineage. Mr. Finch speaks of the latest fluctuations in the stock market. Your parents, intimidated, offer only the most cautious of replies. It is not a conversation. It is a deposition. But it is in the small, unguarded moments that you see the truth of this house. When the footman serves the soup, his hand trembles slightly, and a single drop of broth spills onto the pristine white tablecloth. It is a tiny, insignificant error, but Alastair Finch notices. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't cause a scene. He simply turns his head and gives the young man a look. It is a look of such cold, withering contempt that you see the footman visibly flinch, the color draining from his face. The boy's mistake will be remembered, and he will, you are sure, be punished for it later. Later, when Lady Finch asks a question of the parlor maid, the girl answers in a voice that is barely a whisper, her eyes fixed on the floor. In this house, the servants are not people. They are invisible machines, and any sign of their humanity, a mistake, a moment of hesitation, is met with silent, brutal correction. You watch Alastair as he eats, his movements precise and economical. You see him interact with his mother, their conversation a carefully choreographed exchange of formal pleasantries. There is no warmth, no affection, only duty and propriety. And in that cold, silent dining room, you see your future laid out before you. You will live in this house, a silent, beautiful object moving through these cold, perfect rooms. You will manage a staff of terrified servants. You will have polite, meaningless conversations with a husband who sees a spilled drop of soup as a personal failing. You will be rich. You will be respected. And you will be utterly, completely alone. The laughter you shared with Julian in the conservatory feels like a memory from a different person's life. After dinner, as the ladies withdraw, Lady Finch turns to you. Alastair requires a wife who understands the importance of order and discipline, Miss Ashworth, she says, her voice low and sharp. He is a man of significant responsibilities. He cannot be burdened by feminine emotionalism. It is a clear, unmistakable warning. Do not feel, do not want, do not be a burden. When the gentlemen rejoin you, Alastair requests you play the pianoforte. As you sit at the grand, polished instrument, your fingers feel like ice. You play the piece perfectly, your hands moving with a mechanical precision you didn't know you possessed. You have become one of them, a perfect automaton, performing your duty without a single flicker of emotion. The evening finally ends. As you prepare to leave, Alastair bows over your hand. I trust the evening was to your satisfaction, Miss Ashworth. It was most instructive, you reply, the word hanging in the cold air between you. As the carriage pulls away from the silent, imposing house, you stare out at the gaslit streets of London. The safe bet no longer looks safe. It looks like a cage. A beautiful, respectable, and very, very cold gilded cage. And you have just seen the lock click shut. The week after the dinner party at the Finches is a slow, agonizing descent. The memory of that cold, silent house hangs over you like a shroud. You know what is coming. Every polite nod from your father, every overly cheerful comment from your mother, is a drumbeat marking the approach of your fate. It begins on a Tuesday. your father summons you to his study, a room you are rarely invited to enter. It smells of leather, old books, and the faint, sweet scent of his pipe tobacco. He is standing by the window, his back to you as you enter. "Clara," he says, turning to face you. His expression is one of grave satisfaction. "Mr. Finch paid me a visit this morning at my office." You stand in silence, your hands clasped before you, and wait for the blow to fall. "He has made a formal proposal for your hand in marriage," your father continues. He does not ask for your opinion. He states it as a fact, a transaction that has been successfully completed. He was most generous in his settlement offer. The dowry he proposes will not only secure your future, but will be of significant assistance to this family. He is talking about money. He is telling you, in his own reserved way, that your marriage to Alistair Finch will not just be your salvation, it will be theirs. It will pay off the debts, secure Amelia's future debut, and restore the Ashworth family to a position of comfortable prosperity. The weight of your entire family's future is now officially on your shoulders. He wishes to speak with you tomorrow afternoon, to hear your answer from your own lips, your father says. It is a formality, of course. I have already given him my wholehearted approval. A formality. Your consent is a mere formality. You are an object, a piece of property, being transferred from one owner to another. "Yes, father," you whisper. It is the only answer you can give. You retreat to your room and sit by the window, staring out at the gray London sky. You feel nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just a profound, hollow emptiness. You think of Julian, of the messy, vibrant world he represents. That world now seems impossibly distant, a dream from which you have been cruelly awoken. The next day, the second blow falls. You are in the morning room, listlessly practicing a piece on the pianoforte, when Agnes enters. Her face is pale, and she carries a single, unmarked calling card on a silver tray. "Miss Clara," she whispers, her eyes wide with alarm. "Mr. Croft is here. He insisted on speaking with your father. I tried to tell him it was not a proper time, but he would not be turned away. A jolt of pure adrenaline shoots through you. Julian is here. Now, it is a reckless, insane thing to do." You hear the murmur of voices from your father's study, Julian's, warm and passionate, and your father's, cold and sharp. The conversation is brief. A few minutes later, the study door opens and Julian is shown out. He catches sight of you in the morning room, and for a moment, his eyes meet yours across the hall. His face is pale, but his expression is one of defiant love. He offers you a small, almost imperceptible nod before the butler closes the front door behind him. Minutes later, your father storms into the room, his face a mask of cold fury. "That scoundrel," he seethes. "How dare he? The impudence of it." "What did he want, father?" you ask, your voice trembling. "He had the audacity to ask for your hand in marriage," your father spits, as if the words themselves are an insult. "A penniless scribbler with a ruined reputation. He offered nothing. No settlement, no property, only some nonsense about intellectual companionship and mutual respect. He scoffs, as if that would keep a roof over your head. He turns to you, his eyes hard. I sent him away, of course, and I have made it clear that he is never to set foot in this house again. Clara, you are to forget you ever met that man. Do you understand? But father, you begin. There is nothing to discuss, he says, his voice final. Mr. Finch will be here in an hour. You will accept his proposal, and this foolishness will be at an end. He leaves you there, your heart pounding, the room spinning. 2 proposals in a single day. One from the man who represents everything your world values: wealth, security, and respectability. The other from the man who represents everything your heart desires: passion, companionship, and a life of genuine connection. Your father has made his choice for you. But for the first time, you realize something. He cannot force you to speak the word yes. Your consent, that final, flimsy formality, is still yours to give or withhold. At 3 o'clock, Alastair Finch arrives, as punctual and composed as ever. He is shown into the drawing room where you wait, your mother hovering in the corner like a nervous ghost. He makes his proposal. It is not a plea, it is a statement. He speaks of your suitability, of the advantages of your union, of the orderly and prosperous life you will share. He speaks of everything except love. When he is finished, he looks at you, his pale eyes expectant. He has followed the rules. He has secured your father's permission. He has offered you a life of unimpeachable security. He expects your assent. You look at him, at this man who is your future, and you see the cold, silent rooms of his house. You hear the terrified whispers of the servants. You feel the crushing weight of a lifetime of propriety. And in that moment, another image flashes in your mind. Julian Croft's face in the park, alive with laughter. His voice, warm and passionate, as he speaks of art and ideas. The feeling of his hand in yours, a brief, forbidden spark of warmth. The silence stretches. Your mother coughs, a small, anxious sound from the corner. Alastair Finch's perfect composure begins to fray. A slight frown creases his brow. You have your answer, and for the first time in your life, it is truly yours. The drawing room is silent. The ticking of the mantelpiece clock seems to grow louder with every second, each tick a hammer blow against the stillness. Alastair Finch is still standing before you, his perfectly composed expression now showing the faintest cracks of impatience. Your mother, in the corner, has frozen in place, her needlework forgotten in her lap. The entire world seems to be holding its breath, waiting for your answer. You are expected to say yes. Every fiber of your upbringing, every rule of your society, every frantic, pleading look from your mother screams that this is the only possible answer. To refuse Mr. Finch, wealthy, respectable, and father approved, is not just an act of defiance. It is an act of social suicide. He is security. A voice in your head, your mother's voice, insists. He is a life free from worry, free from the vulgar scramble for money. He is a grand house and respect and a place at the top of the world. You see a flash of that life, polished silver, silent servants, evenings spent in polite, soulless conversation. You see yourself, 20 years from now, a woman encased in silk and silence, her heart a cold, tidy room, her soul as perfectly arranged and lifeless as the flowers on her mantelpiece. A shiver runs through you. Miss Ashworth, Mr. Finch says, his voice now carrying a distinct edge of annoyance. I await your answer. You look at him, at this man who offers a life without struggle, and you realize something. A life without struggle is also a life without passion, without laughter, without the messy, unpredictable beauty of a true connection. But Julian Croft is poverty. The voice of reason argues. He is debt and scandal, and a life spent on the fringes of respectable society. He is a small, rented room in a less fashionable part of London. He is struggle. You see that life, too, mending worn clothes by candlelight, the constant worry of unpaid bills, the scorn of the world you have always known. But in that small, rented room, you see something else. You see laughter. You see books piled high on every surface. You see heated arguments about art and politics that last late into the night. You see two people facing the world together with nothing but their minds and their hearts to sustain them. You think of Agnes, your maid, and her simple, profound words. When I'm with him, I feel more myself, not less. Who do you become with Alastair Finch? You become Mrs. Finch, an appendage, a beautiful, well-managed possession. Who do you become with Julian Croft? You become Clara Croft, a partner, a companion, a woman whose mind and spirit are valued as much as her ability to run a household. It is a choice between a comfortable cage and a dangerous freedom. Between the life you are supposed to want and the life you might actually be able to live, the moment stretches, thin and taut as a wire. You know that the word you speak next will not just be an answer to a proposal. It will be the defining act of your life. It will be the moment you either surrender to the world's expectations or claim your own fragile, uncertain future. You think of your family, your mother's frantic hope, your father's grim financial reality, your sister Amelia's future debut resting on your decision. To refuse Mr. Finch is to betray them, to choose your own selfish desire for happiness over their security. The guilt is a physical weight in your chest, but then you think of Julian, his defiant, loving gaze across the hall, his reckless, desperate visit. He risked everything just to give you the truth, to give you a choice he knew your father would deny you. Can you honor his courage with your own cowardice? You take a small, shallow breath. The corset, a final, suffocating reminder of the world you are about to either embrace or defy. You lift your eyes to meet Alastair Finch. Mr. Finch, you begin, your voice surprisingly steady. I am deeply honored by your proposal. Your mother lets out a small, relieved sigh from the corner. However, You continue, the word landing in the silent room like a dropped stone. I find that I cannot accept. The shock on Alastair Finch's face is absolute. It is the expression of a man who has never, in his entire orderly life, been told no. His pale cheeks flush a dark, mottled red. You refuse me, he stammers, the words themselves a foreign language on his tongue. Yes, you say, the simple word a declaration of independence. I do. Your mother makes a small, strangled sound, half gasp, half sob. Mr. Finch recovers quickly, his shock hardening into a cold, diamond-hard fury. He draws himself up to his full, rigid height. I see, he says, his voice dripping with ice. You have made your preference for a different sort of life quite clear. I wish you joy of it, Miss Ashworth. He turns on his heel without another word and strides out of the room. The front door slams behind him with a sound that echoes through the house like a gunshot. You are left in the ringing silence. You have done it. You have just thrown away the most respectable, advantageous match of the season. You have just destroyed your family's hopes, and in all likelihood, your own future. Your mother is the first to move. She rises from her chair, her face a mask of disbelief and horror. What have you done? She whispers, her voice shaking. Do you have any idea what you have done? You stand your ground, your heart pounding, a strange, terrifying sense of lightness filling you. I have made my own choice, Mother. Your choice, she laughs, a harsh, brittle sound. You have chosen ruin for all of us. No one will have you now. No respectable man will come near a woman who has refused Alastair Finch. You will be a spinster, a burden, the talk of London. She is probably right. The consequences of your decision will be swift and brutal. The whispers will start tonight. The invitations will dry up. The friends who once smiled at you will now turn their backs. That afternoon, your father confronts you in the library. His anger is quieter than your mother, but colder and far more wounding. I am deeply disappointed in you, Clara, he says, not looking at you. I thought I had raised a daughter who understood her duty. He does not ask for your reasons. He does not care about your feelings. You have failed in your primary function, to secure an advantageous marriage, and in his eyes, that is all that matters. The days that follow are a quiet, domestic hell. Your mother weeps. Your father is a silent, disapproving presence. Even your sister, Amelia, looks at you with a mixture of awe and resentment. You have, in her eyes, selfishly jeopardized her own chances on the marriage market. You are an outcast in your own home. But in the midst of this misery, there is a small, defiant spark of something you have never felt before: freedom. You have made a choice. It was a terrible, difficult, and possibly disastrous choice, but it was yours. A week later, a small, discreetly addressed letter arrives for you. It is from Julian. My dearest Clara, it begins. I have heard what you have done, and I am torn between awe at your courage and despair at the consequences I have brought upon you. I cannot ask you to share my life of struggle. It would be an act of profound selfishness. But know this, wherever your path leads, you will not be alone in my thoughts or in my heart. Julian, you fold the letter, your eyes blurring with tears. You do not know what the future holds. A life of quiet spinsterhood, perhaps, living on the charity of your relatives. Or maybe something else entirely. Maybe, just maybe, there is a life for you beyond the drawing rooms and ballrooms. A life where a woman's worth is measured not by the man she marries, but by the strength of her own character. That evening, you descend the stairs for dinner. The atmosphere is as frosty as ever, but as you take your seat at the table, you meet your father's cold gaze without flinching. You have made your choice. You have faced the consequences. And you are, for the first time, truly, terrifyingly, wonderfully yourself. Your story could end here, in the cold, disapproving silence of your family home, with the wreckage of your social prospects scattered around you. But a choice is not just an ending. It is always a beginning. What follows is not a fairy tale, but a quiet, steady unfolding of the life you have claimed for yourself. The path diverges, and the world you step into depends entirely on that single, terrifying word you spoke in the drawing room. Path 1. If you had chosen Mr. Finch. October 1882. You are in a carriage, the fine leather seat cool beneath your gloved hand. The carriage is new, the Finch family crest painted discreetly on the door. Beside you sits your husband, Alistair. He is not speaking, but is instead reviewing a column of figures in a small leather-bound notebook. You have been married for 3 months. You are on your way to your new home, his new home in Belgravia. The renovations are complete. You stare out the window at the passing London streets. The crowds, the noise, the vibrant, messy life of the city seems a world away from the silent, orderly space you now occupy beside this man. He snaps the notebook shut. The final accounts for the Italian marble in the vestibule were higher than anticipated, he remarks, to no one in particular. Most unsatisfactory. He does not ask your opinion. He does not share his thoughts, only his judgments. You have learned in these first few months to navigate the silences. You have learned that his moods are like the weather, unpredictable and best endured from a safe distance. He is not cruel. He is simply absent. Your life together is a series of perfectly executed, emotionally vacant rituals. Breakfast at 8, a drive in the park at 3, dinner at 7, separate bedrooms. Always separate bedrooms. The carriage pulls up before the grand, imposing townhouse. It is magnificent. It is also a prison. As the footman opens the door, you catch your reflection in the polished glass of the window. A woman you barely recognize stares back at you. She is exquisitely dressed in the finest silk. Her hair is perfectly styled. Her expression is serene. She is the perfect Mrs. Alistair Finch, and she is completely, utterly alone. You take his offered arm, your fingers barely brushing his, and together you step into the cold, silent beauty of your new life. Path 2, if you chose Julian Croft. October 1882. You are walking, your arm linked through Julian, sharing an umbrella against a soft, persistent drizzle. You are in a less fashionable part of London, on your way back to the small set of rooms you now call home. Your dress is simple wool, well made, but not new. Your shoes are sturdy and practical, and there is a faint, damp chill that seems to have settled deep in your bones. You have been married for 3 months. Your family has barely spoken to you since your decision. Your father, in a final, cutting act of disapproval, provided you with only the smallest of dowries, enough to prevent total destitution, but not enough for comfort. Your mother sends you occasional, guilt-ridden letters, filled with lamentations about your foolish choice. You are, for all intents and purposes, disowned. Did you see the look on the publisher's face when I told him his journal's politics were derivative? Julian is saying, and he is laughing, a warm, rich sound that makes the dreary street seem brighter. I believe I have made another powerful enemy today. You have a talent for it, my dear, you reply, smiling up at him. Perhaps you should consider it a profession, only if it pays, which it does not, he says with a sigh, though there is no real regret in his voice. His latest article was rejected, which means the rent will be a struggle this month. The worry is a constant, low-grade hum in the back of your mind. But then he stops, turning to face you under the shelter of the umbrella. He reaches out and tucks a stray, rain-dampened curl behind your ear. "Are you sorry, Clara?" he asks, his voice suddenly serious. You look at him, at his kind, intelligent eyes, and you feel a warmth that has nothing to do with the weather. You are poor. You are a social outcast. You are facing a future of profound uncertainty. And you have never, in your entire life, been happier. Not for a moment, you say, and you mean it. He smiles and leans in to kiss you. A brief, sweet, and utterly scandalous public display of affection. You laugh as a passing carriage splashes a puddle near your feet, not caring that the hem of your dress is now officially mud-stained. You reach your building and climb the 3 flights of stairs to your small, cluttered rooms. They are not grand. There is no silent staff, no polished silver. But there are books piled on every chair, Julian's sketches pinned to the walls, and the kettle is whistling on the small stove, promising a hot cup of tea. This is the life you chose. Not of comfort, but of companionship. Not of security, but of a shared, passionate struggle. You are poor, and you are free. And as Julian wraps his arms around you in the warmth of your small, imperfect home, you know you have made the right choice. As the sounds of the London rain fade, or the silent clatter of a wealthy carriage recedes into memory, you can gently let the story go. You have walked with Clara Ashworth to the crossroads of her life, and glimpsed the 2 paths that stretched before her, 2 futures dictated by a single, courageous choice. Her world, with its rigid rules and impossible expectations, seems a lifetime away. And it is. The freedoms you possess to choose your own partner, to build your own life, to let your heart guide you rather than your social standing, are freedoms that Clara and millions of women like her could only dream of. They were born into a game where the rules were already written, a market where their worth was calculated in pounds and pedigrees. To choose security was to surrender the self. To choose love was to risk everything else. There was no easy path, no perfect answer, only a choice and the quiet, enduring strength it took to live with the consequences. Tonight, as you settle deeper into the comfort of your own bed, in your own life, feel a sense of gratitude for that freedom. The simple, profound, and hard-won ability to choose your own love and to write your own story. And now, you can rest, leaving Clara to her chosen future, knowing that whatever path she walked it with a courage that echoes through time. Sleep well.